Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, my name is Faiz Priyandhi. So in here, I want to discuss about the perspective of agricultural students of University of Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta on vertical farming. So let's next. In here, first of all, I want to explain about the introduction. So vertical farming is one of urban farming method that's suitable in this era. There are 9 million inhabitants in Tokyo, capital city of Japan. This city has a problem where agricultural land is running low due to the dense population. Vertical farming can solve this problem. Vertical farming can be a solution for a better future agriculture. So, according to Tulunan said that Indonesia's population increase is still in progress today and continues to grow every year. More and more population affects the ratio needs applying. A triggered new land clearing will happen as a new solution. So there are many converted farmland settlements, leading to a decreased development land area settlement. According to Central Bureau of Statistics, that's the original area of agricultural land in Indonesia was reduced to 7.1 million hectares in 2018, while the 2013 census data was 7.75 million hectares. So several studies have been conducted regarding urban farming based on the research conducted by FTSAN. The research conducted to study the things being researched about people's perception about urban farming. Vertical farming is a part of urban farming. So vertical farming is in this research, it turns out that public perception of urban farming is not broad. This is due to the lack of information and socialization from the community. So, from the research conducted by FTSAN, it can be seen that people's perception of urban farming have not been explored further due to the lack of public knowledge about urban farming. And there has been no research, the perspective of agricultural studies on vertical farming. This research is needed to be broaden the perspective on vertical farming. So, the purpose of the study. The study was conducted to know the perspective of agricultural students of University of Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta on vertical farming and identify how big the impact of vertical farming for Indonesia. The other was interested in following three questions to guide this research. The purpose of the study, the question is, how are their perspective about vertical farming? And second, how are their perspective about vertical farming for Indonesian agriculture? So, first of all, I want to uh, explain about the perspective, the definition of perspective. So, perspective is a conceptual framework, a set of hypotheses, a set of values, and a set of ideas. These ideas will affect a person's for perceptions and ultimately affects a person's behavior under certain circumstances. So, understanding about vertical agriculture. So, first of all, uh, we talk about the vertical. What is vertical? So a vertical line is a line perpendicular to the surface of the earth. The vertical line in practical coordinate system is drawn as a line parallel to or coincidence with the y ordinate axis. And we must know what is agriculture. According to Moser, Agriculture is a typical from a production based on the growth process of plants and animals. Farmers manage and stimulate the growth of animals and plants in agricultural enterprises whose business in production activities so expenditure and income are very important. So, uh, vertical agriculture, according to Darius and Purnama, vertical agriculture is an agriculture system in which crop grows at the same time stacks in like cabinet with conventional cultivation. So after that, I want to talk about the advantage of vertical farming. So according to Jacob by Kristen and Human and Spiller, we can see they say vertical farming has both advantage and disadvantage. So what advantage is that neither soil nor sunlight is needed in vertical farming thus. Solar burn past and most abiotic stresses such as environmental effects resulting from weather conditions or day length do not interfere with the system. So that's the emphasis of vertical farming according to Zuckerberg, Christian, Human, and Spiller on 2019. So we know we do a research, and this is the research method. Uh, so the study used interview to agricultural students to assess about their perspective about vertical farming. Sorry. So this was conducted on agricultural students, University of Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. There are 3 to 5 respondents for this interview. It will be at least 5 questions for the respondents. This question is just for the main questions, but it can be more or less than 5 questions depends on their answers. So this questions of in interview was made up by the other due to curiosity about the perspective of agriculture, studies about vertical farming. There are several questions about vertical farming for agricultural students, so the other can know how their perspective about this. So this interview will attempt by interact with agricultural studies of University of Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Then the results will collected and write in Microsoft Word. Then find the common answer from the results. So this is the findings. First, the part one is student views on vertical farming, how they see about vertical farming. So according to them, vertical farming is a modern method for farming. This kind of agriculture does not use horizontal land but uses vertical land. Vertical agriculture does not always imply tall structures. Vertical farming is something that can be achieved at home. This vertical farming can include hydroponics, aquaponics, and others. This method can solve the problem of narrow land. So the finding part two is student views on vertical farming in Indonesia. So their perspective is like vertical farming is difficult to applicate Indonesia in Indonesia because the general public's knowledge of vertical farming is still lacking. If vertical will build like in Japan using tall building, it will cost a lot of money. Vertical farming can be done if we educate the society about vertical farming. Indonesia's economic stability must be in high priority. But vertical farming is good for food security in Indonesia. So next, I want to discuss this about the findings, about their perspective. So, so vertical farming is a modern method for farming. This kind of agriculture does not use horizontal land, but use vertical land. This can solve the problem of narrow land. According to the second informant, Indonesian agricultural land is getting narrower and needs specific solutions. Therefore, vertical farming can be solved because it does not require a large amount of land because the land is not horizontal farmland but vertical farmland. Vertical farming in Japan, for example, is very successful as the informants first informants said. Japan has succeeded in developing vertical farming, a form of modern agriculture and requires narrow land. Vertical farming can be done on wide scale in Japan with tall buildings serving as agricultural property. Vertical farming is used to produce a variety of agricultural crops. However, according to the first informant, vertical agriculture like that is still not applicable in Indonesia because first the general public's knowledge of vertical farming is lacking. And second, construction costs a lot of money. According to third informant, who claims the constructing buildings for agricultural land costs a lot of money. In comparison to ordinary buildings, the structure must have twice the resistance, and the construction materials must be different. According to the second informant, maintenance should be prioritized over regular farming, even though there is still a lack of general awareness about vertical farming. However, vertical farming may be a possible in the future in Indonesia. If information about vertical farming has been disseminated evenly across the world, vertical farming will be difficult to operate without education because new things like this necessitate public education. Uh, then Indonesian economic stability must be a high priority. This necessitates the establishment of a public education system and economic stability in Indonesia must be a top priority. From the other side, the first information and the second information speak that vertical farming can be used for a food security in Indonesia for time being, since vertical agriculture does not always imply tall structures. Vertical farming is something that can be achieved at home. So this is vertical farming can include hydroponics, aquaponics, and others. So what's the conclusion of this research? So from the analysis that I conducted, it is seen that respondents' perspective on vertical farming gave a fairly positive responses. The respondents have broad read of vertical farming. Respondents have read that vertical farming is a replacement variety of farming and an answer to the narrow land in Indonesia. However, within the method of fixing to replacement farming folk, it takes an extended time. Socialization regarding vertical farming must lean to the community. However, this perspective can be explored more than this, because this is just a few perspective from a few agriculture students, and this perspective can give a hope for better Indonesian agriculture. That's what I hope this study was to seek out concerning the perspective of agriculture students on vertical farming. The invasion to extend the perspective of agriculture study knows. Uh, how about vertical farming? Offer a brand new perspective on the benefits and drawbacks of vertical farming if the vertical uh, farming technique is to be applied massively in Indonesia. Providing associate understanding of vertical farming is additionally become a highlight during this study. So That's all from my presentation about this perspective agricultural student about vertical farming. So thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.